Yeah. Oh, no, it's done it.
Please return to.
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay. Welcome to the Annual Town Council Estate Management Committee. Tuesday the 25th January. Start with the agenda. Apologies for absence. We've had one apology currently. Mr. King. We wait some others to arrive. That's that. Declaration EM 21-145, Declaration of Interests. Is there any declaration of interest from members? Anybody got any interest?
No, but if I do, I shall.
Okay. Disclosure of pecuniary interests or any other interests? No? Apart from, I think I've got one for the rugby club. I think 21-149, member of the rugby club. On the committee there.
I think I should declare whether I'm because I'm a tenant. I mean, personally, I'm not a tenant. Volunteer Action is a tenant.
Yeah.
You employ the client, yeah, you employ, yeah, maybe, should there be?
There's no harm in doing it.
I mean, otherwise, I'm always going to vote to spend a lot of money in their house.
Of course, I know. We have no representation of interested parties tonight. And then we have 21-147, which are the minutes for the previous meeting. And to approve those minutes, I wasn't in attendance that day, but those that are here, are there true record of what took place at that meeting?
As much as we can remember,
I think so. A couple of years ago.
When was it?
It was last year.
Last year.
last year.
Yeah. So true record.
Yep, looks like it.
So is there a vote on that? And I sign. So you want to sign the first payment?
All of them, and then date the last one, please. So Liz proposing, Ian seconding it.
Yeah.
We both voted for it. Well, I voted for it.
So it's unanimous.
Okay. Reports and budgets, 21-148, to receive income expenditure report for OTC's properties and open spaces. That is an agenda item. We've not got it on the screen, have we?
That's that one. No, it's not. It's the figures. All the figures.
There's nothing out of the ordinary.
Nothing there that
Nothing
anybody
struck
wants
me.
to comment on,
Mostly, we're still not spending money.
which I think.
Apart from on trees.
Apart from trees, that's right.
So to receive 21-148, to receive monthly properties and open space update report. So that's a paper you've done.
That's that one, yeah.
Supporting docs.
But I think that's all on here as well, on the agenda.
Yeah, it wasn't action points, was it? It was
The action plan's the other one that's in the.
properties open space report. Okay, so we'll start with the rugby club. I spoke to Graham, and apparently I spoke to Graham Snelling, who is the secretary of the club, 2 days ago, and he tells me that 2 containers are due back at any time. I didn't ask him what happened to the other ones, but they obviously must have been swapped for somebody else because they were quite nice containers. So I don't know what they're doing, but they do have permission to.
Yeah,
place.
that's what made me think,
Yeah.
where have they gone? Because, yeah.
Yeah, because we had 5 originally on the side, and then they've gone. So there's that. And does that include the trees issue, Lisa? Because I'm speaking to.
Yeah,
Derek.
you can say about the trees. I know
Yeah,
it comes
I'm-
further down, but it is in.
I'm due to speak to Derek Denton. Graham referred me to him. I haven't seen Derek. In terms of where we may locate them. So if you know Occupation Road as you go down, obviously from the road, you've got the pitch that sits, the first pitch on the right. They'd probably look to put them on that barrier there where the fence line is, before you get to the first white tennis courts on the right hand side.
Cool.
Because that'd probably be a good place to put them.
It's quite exposed, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And probably up on that, they've also done quite a bit of clearing.
Yes, I noticed that.
You noticed that. So there's a possibility there might be an option of putting them in there, but the club was certainly keen. We'll do anything we can to help.
Brilliant.
In
Okay.
terms of the Jubilee thing, when do we need to let anyone know that we can like samples?
I'm not sure. I'll have to check.
And when do we have to plant them by? Because they need to be planted this winter. or next venture, or.
Yeah. So that's a when of inaction, is it? Please
Yeah.
check.
Jubilee applications, when and when. Plant, okay.
Then we've got Fletton House, problem with heaters.
Yeah,
Very cold.
Feels pretty warm here.
Yeah.
There's
There's storage heaters on there.
The other ones.
it's the Clapthorne ones, well, it was the studio ones that broke first, and they're the same, they're different to everywhere else, I don't know why they chose those in that area.
Right.
They're like fan heaters up on the wall high up. We know what's wrong with the ones in the studio, and then when the Clapthorne room ones stopped, we assumed, or we thought it'd be the same problem, because there's just nothing happening. But we had somebody out yesterday who seemed completely confused by the whole thing, so I need to phone them and find out what's happening.
And they are electric storage heaters, aren't they?
No, they're connected to the gas
Oh,
mains.
okay.
They are water fed, but they've got like a convector in them to
Right.
blow. I think maybe it's because it's such a big room. I don't know the size of the room.
Okay.
But we think it's the same problem. But we think we know what it is, so hopefully it will get sorted soon. But it's getting the contractors to come out, because the one that came out for the one downstairs, he's so busy working in London. He said, can he subcontract to another company, which is who came yesterday, but I'm not sure.
So,
Feel
It's
very
very confident.
confident, yeah, because he was telling me stuff that I'd already told him, and I was like, yeah, that we had that conversation. So I need to phone this other chap and see if he'll come back.
so that's in hand in terms of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as much as it can be at the minute, yeah.
Councillor, next on the hope, Councillor Holland to update on coffee machine findings.
Oh, I don't know about findings, but the contract to have the coffee machine is in hand. Last time I spoke to Emma. So hopefully we'll have that once they can actually source one and get one to us. It's all been agreed. But also on the hub, I've got a meeting with Emma on Friday, where we're going to review my job description and person spec for the, as I call it, community hub manager. I'm not sure she likes my job title. In fact, I don't think she likes most what I've suggested. Could be wrong. Because I think she thinks that's going to be a way too expensive person. Anyway, we'll see. Yes, I mean, I think we will be starting right at the beginning with the job title. Anyway.
Job description. Or job
Yeah, no, I
person-
mean the
person
title.
description, yeah.
I do mean the title.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, you've got to think of what other people in the staff, what their titles are. As soon as you start using the word manager, I mean,
Hub administrator, is it that? I don't know, is it something we need to?
I just think in
Help
order
with
to attract
Yeah,
the person that I see doing it, that's the title they'd expect. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And so I think that we will try to come to an agreement and then suggest it comes to personnel, because they agree, I think.
When is the next person?
Well, we're going to have to call one.
Mm.
But we just want to see where we can get to on Friday. She's also very concerned about the salary, so she went to see Anna Marie, who runs like an entrepreneur hub or something, enterprise hub, I guess, for NNC. Really, really helpful, and we're definitely going to stay in contact with her. But the salary that she suggested when Emma sort of spec the job to her also made her have a sharp intake of breath, I think. We're all going to be on the same page, me, Emma, and Anna Marie on this. So it'll be the personnel committee
So,
to
yeah, I was
fit
gonna
it
say for
into
us-
fit it into
Yeah.
how it looks right.
So for us, the coffee machine is in hand.
Yep.
Any other issue that comes out of the hub issue, the matter,
Yeah.
that would sit with the finance. and
I
personnel.
think at the moment we
It's
might
got
as
to
well
have
just say
Yeah.
there's nothing for estates to do on
Yeah,
it.
that's okay.
Pending that, that's good. It's just going to take some time.
Okay. Then we're on to QVH. Issues around water heaters, taps, faulty lights and replacement light bulbs. Working group re-established. Decision that FC members are. Quotes, 3 quotes for reports. There was some quotes on here, wasn't there? To do with.
Yeah.
So have we got to make a decision on some of this furniture?
Well, not really, because obviously it has to go, the size of the budget, if you're going for refurbishment or reupholstery is too big anyway, and it's a QBH matter, but we just thought about bringing it to here to sort of discuss what you want to recommend to full council or the QBH trustees, whether you want to go down the route of refurbishing them to be greener. It is, I know, but that's the sad thing about it, isn't it?
No.
The only reason we're looking at upholstery was with our green hats on.
Yeah.
The chairs look perfectly good, and it's just the covering is rubbish. And of course, the danger of getting a new cheap chair is you end up with a new rubbish chair that has to be replaced in 2 years' time anyhow. But until we take the covers off the chairs, I suppose we don't know how good they are. The only other thing I was going to raise is it struck me that the sofa isn't necessarily a very flexible and practical way of
No, I
sitting
wouldn't
people
whether
around.
to replace it just with 2 other chairs.
Yeah, or even just,
To not have a sofa.
yeah.
Yeah,
So even for the moment, just
because you're limited where you can put it.
Sofa, yeah.
Definitely, yeah. And the only other thing I thought of is if we're looking at that kind of budget for, I know it's still replacing them, but are those chairs that we've got good enough quality to spend that amount of money on refurbing
Well, that's
them?
the point, isn't it?
Maybe we should just invest in some new good chairs for a similar budget and then continue to refurb them as and when necessary.
The guy I spoke to in Peterborough said he'd be happy for us to take one in.
Yeah.
And they'd be happy to sort of have a look at it and say in their estimation,
Is it worth it? Yeah.
But then he said as soon as you look at chairs that are worth reupholstering, they're much more expensive to buy anyhow. But I think if we're going to be serious about minimising costs in the future and us saying we're not just pretending to be a bit green, then just throwing chairs away every 2 years is a bit of a waste. So it depends how much they are. Because not good ones would be 300, 400, 500 pounds
Yeah.
a piece, can't they?
I mean, these that I looked at that were 170 per chair, they look almost identical. That's
That
including.
Portobello Autumn one you were.
Yeah, they look. I mean, I personally like the check, the fabric check, because I think we could go for something darkish that would hide any.
It needs to be dark.
Yeah,
I think so.
and I can't stand those pleather ones. I mean, they don't last very long at all. So the prices there are just for like in terms of quality. So you'd probably be looking in a few years' time the same thing. Well, I don't know how long those chairs have lasted. Actually, to be fair, I can't remember when the
I can't remember.
Queen Vic refurb
You
was
think it's 2
done.
years, it's probably 3 or 4 or 5 years.
But I don't even know whether those chairs were bought new for the Queen, whether they could have been there before the refurb.
The other thing is even if we replace them with better quality chairs, we should at least say, does anyone want them? Because someone
Oh, yes,
take them,
absolutely.
and in the end, that's not destructive. They're just gone
They're
into
not going in
life.
landfill, are they? They're being recycled.
Exactly. So as long as they get reused, that's fine.
They go off. So what do we need to make some recommendations from here to the QBA?
I think I'll just pass it to Emma and she can put it on. And if you want to say how you feel and see how the others feel.
Anybody got any thoughts around replacing the chairs? Budget allowing?
I think we get a lot of views and you want them to last a long
It's got to look
time.
nice in there, isn't it?
It's-
Attract more people.
Invest in something half decent,
Mm.
not £170 a chair, go for a bit more.
Mid-range, sort of.
So if that's the upholstery budget, we think we can find a good second home for the chairs, get some good decent chairs.
Yeah.
But not replace the sofa.
No.
No, we'll have
That's
two,
not
we'll have one more chair or 2 more chairs. Yeah, okay. And then we've got on here, complaint about the steepness. I know Ian put his, he sent the email around. I love it, I have to say, I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah.
It's in the
The access, it is in the cathedral, so I've used it
Knights.
in the Knights Chamber, and I've used it. What it is in the cathedral, you've got a set of steps, and we use that for speech day at King's. And members of staff have really struggled, they've got the lift to get up there, and they get to that, they used to get to that build, and they have to carry everything down the steps. And they put this disabled ramp, and you literally slide on, goes down, and away you go, and it just works with the steps.
But it's good stairs. Every time we had to walk into the courtroom, which was in there,
Yeah.
every time we walked in, we went,
Yeah, I know. So, knowing that we're trying to make the building more, should make the building more accessible for other people.
Is it very steep?
It's not so much that, is it? It's if you've got it's wheelchair access. Isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I'm just, literally it says here, the disabled access is very steep, and I question whether it is very steep.
No.
No, I don't think so.
It's the same steepness, I assume, as going from Beans to the Talbot, because it's the same slope.
Yeah.
Isn't it? So
They just want to go through the front door then, do they, as opposed to.
I mean, they said that obviously some of their less able-bodied people in wheelchairs, some of their less able-bodied people pushing them in the wheelchairs struggle a little bit.
that's probably fair enough.
It's always a bit awkward going through a side door. Just it doesn't feel right to.
Push you down the side.
I don't know. Personally, for me, I find it a bit.
Yeah.
But as things stand at the moment, I would imagine those lifts are going to cost us.
I don't think it's just
More
the
than
cost
a
either. I was
We
thinking
even
about the
established
congestion.
that
Is there a need?
Yeah.
Is there a need?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's the question.
The
we've got.
congestion on the street as well. If you think about the space it would take up
Yeah.
at the front, are you going to start causing people having to walk out?
Well,
Into the
idea
road
is you might
and-
be then to look at something on that side door around by the bar,
Mm.
but that's still going to be expensive.
Yeah.
So we need to just say, is there a need? And if the answer to that is not at the moment, then we just stick with what we've got.
Is it worth? Again, it's not us, is it? It's the QDH trustees seeing if over the next year or two there are any grants available or something like that we could target to see what's what.
The thing is, the U3A have been using the hall for a long time, and this is the first time anybody's complained, and I would be interested to find out how many people have said.
Yeah.
I find it a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, but I think the argument is that as soon as one person complains seriously, you've then got to take it seriously. I think that's the issue.
It does say they've got
Well,
several
we're not
less
taking it
funds.
seriously,
No,
because
no,
we've
no,
got it
no.
at this meeting, but it doesn't mean to say we have to agree with them.
No, I'm not saying this case, but I'm saying if someone were to come in and say, I need to be able to do this in terms of access, we'd have to show that we've taken steps.
Can we show? So can we do some scoping work on that? I know you didn't put your thing on, but in terms of having a look at the access. You've got people with walking sticks, you've got people with wheelchairs. We'll have a look at it. And if we can look at the cost, and so we're not saying we're going to do it, but we're having a look at it and saying,
It's private access as well.
yeah,
And it could be in the next 2 or 3 years, we look to fund it through grants, but if there are no such things and there's no great needs, then such as what?
I suppose it's similar to what we're coming on to next with this pipe.
yeah,
I think, this was definitely raised by Roy.
oh, okay,
I can't remember whether he just raised it or somebody had approached him. So this was quite some time ago. But it is a disused hydrant, but it is very close to the wall.
yeah,
So I think there was some talk then when we looked at it about painting it bright yellow so people can see it. It's well lit down there. And I think you'll probably see the costs that I got from this initial inquiry,
Yeah.
that they'll charge us £200 plus VAT just to check whether it's live. And then if it is live and they have to retrace it to the source, he said worst case scenario, we might be looking at £5,000.
want to remove it. Is it, I think the first question for me would be, is it a hazard? Do we need to deal with it as a hazard? And if we do, we need to remove it, we need to remove it. If
And
it's
we'll
got-
make it
or
safe
make
in
it safe,
another
yeah,
way.
yeah.
I think we need to show that we've done something.
So,
The only thing I could think of, you can easily walk two abreast out.
whereabouts
So
is
if
it? Can't, is it?
up the side where we've just been talking about the steep
Yeah.
access to the right. So it's that wall that you can see in the back of the picture is
Yeah,
the dentist. So it's quite close to there, and you can still, two people abreast can still walk comfortably
So
past
can we
it.
box it in? There you go.
That's one of the other things I said to Emma about when we first discussed it. Maybe
But
put
you
boxing
walk
in.
into a box thing. Can I tell you a little story about my life? I tend to walk around my garage with the lights not turned on because I'm stingy. And I came across luminous tape, which is very cheap.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it lasts outside, but when you shut the garage door, it's dark, you can see where the light switch is, and you can see where all the trip hazards, including the bikes, are, because this is what they're still doing on the stage. Now, I don't know if there's an exterior luminous thing, but if it's been a nice sunny day and someone comes out of a theatre performance and it's a little bit glowy or it's bright yellow, they're not going to walk into it.
For me,
we've done our thing.
For me, it needs painting bright yellow or whatever bright colour, and we have a sign put up saying beware.
Beware, yeah.
And then we've catered for it.
But no one's going to be out there at 2 in the morning.
No, yeah. So, should we look to do that? Should we paint it bright? Look to paint it bright or sign it? Like, because if you have because there are those signs you can get with H and whatever else on it, caution or something.
I mean, if we could find out easily, I'm pretty sure it's disused because the fire brigade know nothing about it.
Okay.
But it's a shame we can't turn it or cut that bit off at least. It's so it's not sticking out.
Bricks opens it up, and then all of a sudden, West.
Yes.
Sorry.
I might leave getting my disc cutter out just yet.
Lisa, I've opened that tap.
I mean, even if you cut the nose bit off,
it's still sticking up. It's probably more visible if you leave it complete, I suppose, isn't it? Really.
Make it jagged if you cut it off.
Yeah.
Stupid, really stupid thing. Is it worth putting not a pop art, but something more obvious in front of it? So at least you're not going to walk into that thing.
Well, I suppose we could get the yarn bombers to knit something to put over it.
That's a great idea.
They
could
Danger.
They could make a hydrant-shaped yarn bomb, couldn't they?
We're taking it seriously.
They've got them on things. They've got them on the big poster around there.
And it does have the effect of making people look at it.
Yeah.
Probably more than yellow. And...
Very much been jubilant. Anyway,
okay, paint it, make it more visible. Okay.
So I'm following that action point, but really going through the agenda. So we've covered 149, 150, 151, we're on the QVH. And we're now on Courthouse, I think.
Okay. Yeah, not a lot to say about the courthouse for a change, which is good.
Okay, Courthouse, yeah, nothing to do with electrical testing, more quotes being obtained.
They're the ones that Emma brought to you at full council, and I managed to get hold of Sadler's today, the other Sadler's,
One from
and he's going to send me some information, but he said what I need to be careful of, I need to get the old reports from the other Sadler's, because he said what you have to be careful of is, I believe that when you ask for a full electrical testing report, it's a full electrical testing report. But he told me to look out for some exceptions and some, can't remember what the other word was. So I've got to look into it in a bit more detail, because he said sometimes can't remember what the word is for it. They don't always test all of it. And he says, and if part of the bits that they haven't tested fail, then you're liable. So he says you need to make sure it's a fully comprehensive.
Full.
I mean, when I ask for a full report, I expect that's what you get. But he said you do have to be careful. He said that's why you'll notice a difference in prices. It scares me, because I just think I don't know this. If I ask somebody for a full report, I expect a full report, and then to be told that, well, that might not be actually what you're getting. So I do need to look into this. He's going to send me some documents tomorrow to have a look at, which I'll discuss with Emma before approaching any more electricians, I think.
But that's all been approved to go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we have to do it.
Exactly.
Okay, car parks. So do I take it the letter that the person that wrote in November regarding the car parking, that came in after our last meeting, did it? In November? To go on the agenda?
I think so. Emma just sent it to me and said this needs to go on. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think it must have missed it.
So the rules surrounding that car park are, it's open car park. There's no restriction on parking in there, is there?
No, we had lengthy conversations about this a couple of years ago, didn't we? And I think Tony was the then mayor, and he had meetings with Fairline, who assured us that they were stopping people parking in there. But clearly, as this lady has demonstrated, no spaces by just before 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. There was all sorts of talk, wasn't there, about barriers and ticket machines and all sorts of things, but nothing was really ever decided.
I think the problem that arose then is that it's a long stay car park, and anyone can stay in a long stay.
Yeah.
And you know, in my little camper van tours the last few months, there's lots and lots and lots and lots of car parks that now have 2 hour limits, 3 hour limits, 4 hours, no overnight, etc.
No, most times.
But they all have an enforcement system.
Yeah, they do.
And whether it's a
And we haven't
camera
got
or a person,
Yeah.
or traffic.
And we haven't got.
The best I came across was in Warrington, somewhere near Birmingham. And they had, it was like an AMPR camera,
That's it.
and you drive in and it says you've got 2 hours, but it actually flashed your number plate up. So you drove in and it said, hi, wherever you are, we know you're here, you're only here for 2 hours, and 4 hours, 6 hours. And those things, they seem to be, you let a company bring their system in, they do it, I suppose they then take the money, which pays for it. But that means they're going to be policed quite voraciously,
And it would be.
and
Definitely.
people
They
would
have
probably be fairly upset.
They have that in Corby.
I don't want to go to a company that is basically making money out of.
Yeah, it's absolutely, so 1 hour 59 minutes, they're starting to write a ticket out sort of thing, and you get it a few weeks later.
So there's 2 issues here as well. It says, well, obviously twice a day you've got probably got laps and they're parking there because they've got the rear gate on there. They can get through the rear gate.
But they also have their own
Parking area, yeah. And then we've got the fare line issue. So how do we wish to pursue that? Are we going to consider writing something to fare line?
We could go and see them, we could meet them there, but what's our argument for them not being able to park there?
Well, we haven't got one.
No, I'm
Long
confused.
stay car park. And actually, it probably saves some of the work on whether they're here or not. They're driving into town. They're utilising the town facilities, as opposed to driving all the way around on 605 and going on that junction. There's no roundabout getting into that industrial estate, isn't it? Whereas they can park here.
And I think that's why they do it, isn't it? Because it's easier than
Easier
having
and probably
to
safer.
be on the, yeah.
What I do,
So I have some sympathy.
there was talk last time about trying to open up that footpath into the Fairline car park. But I think Fairline weren't fans of that,
No.
and I'm not sure we knew who owns
Well,
that.
that's that strip of land, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's no man land again.
And it's an imponderable. The other question I suppose it raises is in X number of years, if the car park were not to be leased back to us, what would happen then? Because no one will be fighting over it because there won't be anywhere to park.
No.
So I'm not sure there's a solution to that.
So do we write a nicely worded letter about saying, look, it is a long stay car park. It's not our intention to place any restrictions on there at the moment, and we'll review it if it continues to be an issue. Is that the sort of thing we want to be?
I'm perfectly fine now with also writing to Fairline and
Yeah,
just
and
saying
do
we
the
have
fair line. Yeah,
had
absolutely. We've had another
another
complaint
complaint.
about.
Okay.
So if
Because it is full,
yeah,
by that time in the morning, it's
All
full.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's
every day of the
intention
week,
is-
every Monday to Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
Its intention as well is that it's there for visitors to use too.
Yeah.
They can't park.
Mm.
I'm not sure how.
So if you could encourage your workers to park
Yeah.
in your car park, that would be really helpful. Something like that.
Yeah, give them a free coffee if they're wrong.
Yeah.
If they can prove they're parked in your car park.
And so
Where are they
that
saying?
car park's quite full, I think, isn't it?
Is
Last
it?
time I checked,
As well?
Their car park is.
What, Fairline as well?
yeah, it was heaving with double parking and stuff, so whether they've just got a bigger workforce now, which is good, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a resident initially in November, it was a net in November, and then, or is it, because it says, I hope it sounds clear damaging, it's certainly put me off coming to Amber. Well, there are other places you can park in Amber. So I was a bit sort of, what was the point they were making? Just car parking generally, that seemed to.
So she was there to drop her children off, was it, or no?
Well, that's the implication, perhaps. Early in the morning.
Would indicate that it's,
Yeah, it's not specific there.
But can
No,
parents,
she's not, is she?
parents can go into the car park at Laxton, can't they, and go around the street, so
Absolutely.
they go in there and look around. Okay, right, so we've got to have action on that.
I have to say, that road is atrocious at rush hour in the morning.
I think most roads are
Yeah.
down.
I walked there and I was slightly late dropping an egg off, and the pollution levels were
Yeah.
awful, absolutely awful.
Well, I think you can say that for most of the towns, most of the town major roads, or roads where the school, any of the schools are, dropping off and picking up times. That includes the buses that go down
Yeah.
road to drop off at PWS, all the parents are dropping off at Laxton, and then Gladthorne Road and Costop Road are
Round,
just
yeah.
as busy. So I think that's one of those things, until we have, probably, we've talked, I think there's something about cycleways today. Until we sort of have that sort of mentality built in.
The transport working group met last night with the transport people, and we talked about various things, including cycling in schools and all that sort of stuff. They're hoping to end up doing some numbers in the next month or so, and then doing all their various things, so that either 28th, when we have the town meeting, we can report back on their sort of draft overview of stuff. And hopefully we can put some feedback about that sort of thing in that as well. But by the time you add in lots of houses potentially down to Christmas Drive and 60 mobility scooters coming up the road at the same time, with no parking here, it's not going to get better.
Okay, that's a separate issue. Toilets, cost for deep cleaning are on the agenda. Full deep clean would be £394, £5 plus VAT. Recommend that for hours. Total cost £2,080 plus VAT for PHS. So clean for sure £395 and PHS £2,080.
So someone wants the business and someone doesn't.
Well, I copied and pasted, because the PHS one was the first one that was in, so I copied and pasted everything they said they would cover in that when I asked Lee at Clean for Sure for his. Obviously, Clean for Sure are the ones that the contract's with anyway, so, but as we were saying, at that price, we could factor in 3 monthly intervals, having them deep cleaned, which would make a heck of a difference, because like Ian has said, our toilets aren't actually that bad. The main thing is, if you go in and they smell and they're dirty, which has been an issue in the past, but when they're clean and cleaned properly, they're actually fairly pleasant. So
that might be exaggerating. They certainly serviceable.
fairly pleasant.
It's nice to
I
have
don't
a town
know that,
that
do
has
I?
public toilets.
Well,
Yes,
absolutely,
that's
yes.
Quick question, as I had a long chat with PHS, it was a very complicated process to get anything out of them. There was a lot of mention of steam cleaner. Can Clean for Sure steam clean?
I believe so, yes, because I said to him.
But it strikes me that regular deep cleaning is and a drain, so everything's in tip-top condition. So if we were to say a deep clean every 3 months and a diner rod every 3 months, something like that, so at least we know, or even 2 months maybe, we're on top of it, and everything's brilliant, and hopefully that's a much better way of spending money than anything else.
And also, I think it's nice to support a more local business than a big company. I don't know. The only thing I was worried about was Ian's. It said Ian Clark, Carroll Public Toilets. I thought he'd moved.
How do you know I never moved to the first place?
So we're going to go with the 395.
Yeah.
So do we need to decide a sort of regularity thing as well?
Yeah. How often does he and would recommend after hours? So we negotiate with him that 395 covers whatever time is agreed.
He has to come,
And so it's after hours being what time they open now?
I think
5 o'clock?
officially they're supposed to shut about 6, I think,
Yeah,
6,
about
half
6.
6, but I invariably go past at 5, half 5 and they're closed. So I think that's another thing I need to query with Clean for Sure, because I did ask them to confirm the hours a few years ago, and I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be half 6 in the morning till half 6 at night.
So what did we ask then for the quote was in terms of timings and how often did we do that? What was it?
That was just, I don't think I phrased it as something that they would be doing regularly.
Right.
Just we need a deep clean. What would you charge for a deep clean? And the other thing I was saying to Ian before you came as well, I think Ian sent an email about, I know it's not the nicest job, but meeting down there to look at them, because I still haven't really got a clear picture of exactly what we want replacing. Do we want all the sanitary ware replacing? Do we want these very dated, shove your hand in a squirt of, say ice cream? Then a little sprinkle of water and then a dryer that doesn't really dry your hands kind of thing. Do we want those taken out and just replace them with basic sinks? Because we have got a decent budget, even up until the end of this financial year, to get some things done, but I don't really understand what we want exactly from it.
So we need a visit then, do we, to the toilet?
Well, I did go this week, and as you asked, and I say I don't find them offensive at all. As it happened, all the bins were overflowing, so that was unpleasant. But
Is that the general bins, sorry, or the PHS
Inside,
bins,
yeah.
the sanitary bins?
Yeah,
Right, okay.
and there's a bin for, must be for paper towels or something in the main area.
Right.
That was full as well. Yeah, I mean, okay, those things may be out of date, but it's the most important thing about your toilets that they're up to date.
Well, I think it's not so much out of date, it's the fact they don't work very well, and they take a lot of space behind the scenes, which we
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, because all that gubbins goes in.
Yeah,
goes cleaning
Because I
boxes.
thought they were very streamlined.
Pipe work and
Yeah, there's a
hardware
huge
there.
box in the back room, which makes it difficult for
Yeah.
maintenance. The other thing as well is
The
when
thing is that it controls the water, doesn't it?
It does,
You've got to have
yeah.
taps that.
I don't think they're particularly efficient. At least you do have the thing where someone can't just leave it on. But the chap that came, he said that they still do provide those, and they're very expensive. And he said the problem is when they go wrong, they're very, very expensive. And he said the new ones are very super efficient. He said these ones aren't. These are very dated. So in terms of efficiency, I don't think they're particularly good in any way. But they're functional at the moment. So do we just wait until they go wrong and then get rid of them?
But then know what we want to replace them.
Yeah, we've got to have a clear picture of where we're going with it. But certainly for cleaning it, doing up the outside, painting it, that they were my definites. Getting it all painted, the graffiti gone, getting it deep cleaned, getting the outside looking better. The guttering possibly needs replacing.
Yeah. I thought the outside looks
It looks quite shabby. We put a new sign up, but the doors look where she's taped notes on the front. It all looks really shabby, and that's something that's fairly simple to.
Yeah.
I think just with those things done, it would look a lot better.
Toilet facilities look okay, apart inside.
They do to me.
Yeah.
The pipe, some of the pipe
That's
work
it,
might
yeah.
need renewing because there was quite a few issues with blockages fairly recently, but they seem to have rectified themselves. But yeah, there might be some.
But is that also we need, once we know the sewer bit is all clear,
State of
and
the
they
sewer,
can clean all the way back up,
Yeah.
then we can start working it.
So if I get a quote as well from Dinah Raj,
Yeah, they've got a maintenance thing, every 2 months they come and.
I think if we get them to do a thorough inspection as well before, because I think they can put a camera down just to check if there's any cracks and.
Okay.
So I think if we get the deep clean done as soon as possible.
Yeah,
And
okay.
get the Dino runs, so at least it's in this financial year and we'll have any.
And I should be able to get the paint sorted out and the external bit all sorted out because they're all fairly easy things to organise.
Brilliant.
Okay. Excellent.
We've got the recreation grounds.
Oh yeah.
21.56 recreation ground play area, skate park, basketball court. Consider options and quotes consult some inclusive play equipment. The bouncy.
They suggested either the interactive boards, which I thought were really nice, but I quite liked the idea of this trampoline because I thought it would appeal to everybody, all different age ranges and everything. And the chap that gave me the idea, he's the one that hasn't come back with the quote. I met with him last week. I chased him this evening. But the actual item for the 2 metre by 2 metre trampoline is 4661. So that just comes in budget. I can't remember. I don't know whether he said that's for installation.
Do we know where we would put that
Yeah, as you come in,
one? From where?
the main gate.
Yeah,
So
the one where you've got the hanging bars on the left and you've got the bench on the right.
So
Yeah.
from the park.
From the park,
yeah, from the park.
football end
That's
side.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Directly in front of you, there's a green space
Yeah.
between
Before you
those
get
two
to the
items.
screens.
Yeah. And it would fit nicely there. And he said you wouldn't have to put too much. You wouldn't have to lay too much path from the main path.
Right.
He said about maybe 2 meters worth. So he said it'd be nice and accessible for people with wheelchairs.
And how much does it need off the trampoline bit then? It needs so much away from it, doesn't it? Kids are going to jump off it.
Yeah. He's also from the other apparatus, he measured it all out so that if a child fell or jumped off the other apparatus either side, you've got to have a clearance as well, apparently.
Right.
So he said we've got plenty of room. So I thought that was a really good idea because I just could see it appealing to lots of people, all different age ranges, and it's flat in the ground as well.
Yeah.
Which is good.
It's not inclusive though, is it?
That's what I'm thinking.
Well, that's what he
Well,
said.
you can't do a wheelchair use it.
Well, yeah, is it worth us pinging that suggestion back to the people who contacted us originally?
But because I didn't have a look, but I'm pretty sure he said it. The person that contacted us, the child is coming up to teenage years, hasn't he?
Possibly,
Or
but
she-
it depends on mobility as to whether you can get there or not.
It does, yeah.
So
It
they'll
doesn't
say,
scream inclusivity to me.
Mm.
The pictures there show able-bodied
Able-bodied
children
kids jumping up
in
and down.
groups.
Yeah.
As if that's, in
Yeah,
and of
absolutely.
itself can be intimidating. I'm rather surprised that it falls within.
Well, he pitched it a different way because he was saying about how quite often, even if they're wheelchair bound, they can be moved onto a swing or onto something else. And he said that's how he pitched it anyway, that, quite often a disabled child will want to play with their able-bodied buddies.
Yeah.
And that's how he said it to me. That's what.
that was also raised when I spoke to the resident.
But it's just, so some of the inclusive play that I've seen is like, for example, a roundabout that is big enough for a wheelchair to go on, and
Yeah.
you've still got additional seats for able-chaired bodies.
Well, this is what we're considering for future, but obviously I said to them, it's something, we want something this year, this financial year, and we've only got £6,500 budget. So Wixty did send me one of those roundabouts, but obviously it's something like £14,000.
Right.
So the aim for this was just to get something with the budget we've got left for youth activities for this year, just so that we've, put something and added something that's usable for
What was
the
the
time.
the play boards and stuff, because they again were positively mentioned.
Yeah,
They're nice.
sensory
And
boards,
again,
yeah,
they're
all different.
good for
Because they can
age
push
groups
up,
and
because they also show
Yeah.
the wheelchair, they show the wheelchair
Yeah.
photographs. Don't they?
And he said
Friendly
we could again do them along that pathway as you first come in.
and they're good for lots of different
They
ages.
pull up at the side of them, don't they?
Yeah.
And what sort of prices are they?
Well, here 2228 1536 is the
Oh, they're on there, sorry.
yeah
Stevens.
so yeah,
More
quite-
or
reasonable prices. So we could have 2 or 3 of those, couldn't we?
instead of the bouncy thing.
Mm.
I would imagine, if everyone's okay, I'll send those 2 snippets to the person I met. And say which one of those you think. I think he would say that those sensory boards would be more.
Yeah.
More practical.
Well,
yeah,
and
so
also
they're
I think-
more leisurely.
If there's going to be development later on, where really space is going to become an issue,
Do we want to put
having
trampoline
sensory
down?
boards that you'll be able to move and reutilize rather than
Yeah.
You dug down.
exactly that maybe it's future proofing.
So should we agree on the panels now then? Make a decision on them? Or should I?
Subject to, we can't approve this now, can we? We can recommend to
Yeah.
full
This
council.
is the
So if
recommendation.
we
for
recommend
council.
play panels
Yeah.
in some.
And how many would we get for that? All of those? Or just another?
2,
Is it
4,
four?
about 3, I should imagine.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the time they install them.
So if I'll go back and say, what do you reckon? We think play panels, we'll hopefully say yes. Full council, we say play panels, they say yes. And
Got them.
how do we decide which ones? We just cut our cloth the best we can.
Yeah. And you can think about that a bit later,
Cool.
can't you, before the
Okay,
next
I'll do
one?
that.
Okay.
Brilliant, thank you. Thanks for
So it
that.
says
That's okay.
broken spring on the bottom half springer, ordered a replacement. So I suppose it's being done. That's all. Skate park, TCEO currently looking into options.
Skate park,
Mr. Clark, Councillor
yeah,
Clark.
we sent out the document, which is all very exciting. Various people come back saying they'd like to talk to us. We are meeting someone tomorrow, Emma and I think, to have an initial chat about their ideas, the people that we spoke to originally. And I think a couple of other people have put themselves forward, but there's no meeting arranged yet. So I think Emma's view is that we then sort of recommend a preferred person that we'd like to talk to more often, and then we start getting the consultation groups talk.
Okay. Just a question on the basketball court. Did we put anything out in the media for that? So a bit of a hit, wasn't it? I saw a photograph of it.
It went out
Yeah,
in the
really
December
well.
ones, and we hope it's ready, which is why I got shouted at on the December 4th Christmas fair.
Oh, okay.
They were already installing it. I got shouted at by one of the users saying, "You've taken it away for this, and now you're parking cars on it." It's going to be better on the
It's only for today. Okay, so then we go to,
Just to say that gets used so much, that basketball
It does.
court, and it's nice to see, and it's all ages, all different
It's a really nice
families.
mix, actually. And I think,
Brilliant.
from my little weird observations from the outside, which I say that we don't have all these meetings. It's different groups and different families and stuff, but also it gives the whole area of the rec a bit more buzz about it, because people are using it, so other people who go to football.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It'd be nice going into the spring, summer and seeing
Yeah.
it use there. Sorry.
and then I do have Snipe Meadow signage plan, green space, wildflower plan before it gets trees. Is that okay?
Mhm.
Completed, the flowering was completed. Anything else? Solicitors preparing a grazing lease.
Yeah, that's all coming on nicely.
Okay, anything else on that?
The only thing I would throw in is we had that report from, not Pitt, the other ward, his name I've forgotten, saying that he went down to the count
Richard.
on one, yes, Richard, there were 40 site there,
Yeah.
which is a huge number.
How was it?
And also, we've teed up contact with a neighbouring landowner, versus company in effect. And whenever we're doing stuff down there, we're going to contact them and just say, here's what we're doing. And, hopefully try and work a bit more harmoniously with them. So that's fine, and everything else.
Okay. Then we've got trees.
Yes, hopefully the last lot of tree
Yeah.
husbandry we need at the moment. So we were talking, weren't we, on the improvements in the long-stay car park, but obviously with what needs doing, it's going to have to happen another time. But we agreed that at least the tree work could be done, which has helped with some parking spaces because it was quite overgrown. And we also got them to cut the access road as well, because he was going to charge so little while he was there on Saturday. So that's all complete now. So that's hopefully looking. I was going to pop down there today, but I didn't have a chance. But I think
Updates on the rugby clubs.
Just having a quick look, the Green Canopy website recommends that trees are planted October to March. And they recommend you don't plant them any other time.
There was a short space.
So there's a short space, or we can put stakes out on the Jubilee and plant them that way. Do we need to think about getting other ones planted on our own land between now and then? There's couple up on the place that I can't remember, where I took a photo of you standing where.
He did.
yeah.
Rockingham Hills.
Rockingham
That's the
Hills,
one.
yeah.
There were two up there.
There was going to be two up there.
and also Sir Christopher's Close, isn't there?
Is it worth getting those underway?
Getting them in by March.
Yeah, so they're in and ready and rolling.
And what are we planting there? Are we, because there was the offer of those
Sycamores,
was it sycamores?
I can check if they're still live.
Two suppressors.
They say they're with chestnuts, won't they?
Yeah, I think the chestnuts, aren't they? Okay.
Any more
It's
on
very hard
trees?
to get hold of trees, of course, at the moment.
Hard to get hold of trees.
We've waited ages in Blackpool, perhaps.
Have you?
So we were starting to think we would get them in time to be able to plant them.
Oh, right,
But
okay.
they've just arrived.
Yeah,
They planted at the weekend. A very long lead time on them.
really,
Mm.
okay.
I might have got very small ones.
Yeah, it's just, you know, so if you have got, some of the,
Talk to my garden.
Any more on trees?
No, I think that's it, yeah.
So 21159 is projects workshop, nothing to report. 21160 charging points, shown as nothing to report. And then we've got 161 is the church.
the quote wasn't actually quite as awful as I thought it was going to be.
I think it was around what I sort of expected, I think, yeah.
And are these guys that are working on those walls at the moment?
No, this is a different company. I've not, funnily enough, I've not had a response from Weldonstone.
They're the ones working on Philip Rose's wall.
They were, yeah. I think they do a lot of work for the school, don't they? They seem to have quite a monopoly on work here. But somebody said to me that one of the partners is poorly or something. That might be why they're. So I've not hassled them at the minute because I know it's not like we want the work doing tomorrow. But I will chase that again and speak to somebody in the office about quoting Weldonstone.
Okay.
Where they say that they're going to remove vegetation, is that something that you do need a proper qualified stonemason to do?
They rake it one out, don't they?
I'm sorry?
They rake it one out, don't they?
It's
So I
probably
think-
what comes out
Yeah.
behind it.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
could we not have our people take the vegetation off and then they go in?
They come
and-
along and repoint.
Yeah,
Well, the other suggestion as well is that our tree surgeon, when he did the wall, the other side that boundaries with the,
the park.
the big house on New Street that used to be the
The old rectory.
old rectory, that's it. What they quite often suggest is you cut the growth at the base and let it die back so it loses its hold so much,
Oh,
because
yeah.
then it doesn't do so much damage when you
Yeah.
do pull it out. So I mean, we could do that. I mean, our maintenance guys could
Yeah.
go around and cut everything down at the bottom, wait for it to die, and then
Because
take
they'd
it.
spray sections of the wall, wouldn't they, to kill some of the plants? If that's what we could do ourselves, couldn't we?
Well,
Yeah,
it is, but the issue is, when you pull them out, you bring
Yeah.
lots of the stuff out.
Yeah, and then you've got to repoint them.
And also potentially whatever you spray won't react with the lime, I suppose, so they probably want completeness. Because lime's dodgy stuff, not dodgy, it's fun.
No, it's horrible.
Do we need to have a sort of rough idea of which we think the priorities are? Because we don't have any money to spend on this at the moment.
no.
No.
Yeah, because I've got I did ask the chap who did the survey to prioritise the bits that he believes need doing fairly quickly, and I think one of them was certainly that the entrance to the Andal School building. You know, where it's not an arch, is it? But there's a
Gascoigne.
lintel going
Is that the
in the
one
wall.
going towards
Yeah,
Gascoigne?
yeah.
Yeah.
He said that was fairly urgent. He said it's safe, but he would prioritise that. I've got that email somewhere, so yeah, we'll just have to. I think that's why he's done these in. He's followed the report exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so he has told us which ones we need to prioritise, which is good.
So that's item one? No.
I think so, yeah. Fronting North Street.
No,
So that's what
No.
northeast corner
No,
of the
that's
old
the
vicarage
northeast
garden.
I think it's two.
Yeah, item two.
Gateway to New Street.
So that's about, is that 8?
No, Gateway to New Street's the other end, isn't it?
So is that 8850 plus?
Yes,
Or 8850 including? That must be plus VAT.
yeah,
So that's
I've
over
got
10
Ward
grand.
6.
northeast
What?
corner of the old vicarage garden.
Is it northeast corner of the old
This
Vicarage
section
Garden?
belongs to the back of the old
No, that's not the one, is it?
No, it's item 2. North boundary, it separates the churchyard from the buildings of Amble School, Gascoigne buildings.
And then you just
Oh,
press
to the
the
bottom there, yeah, the headings don't.
Yeah, so 5,700.
8850. Have we even got 8850 available?
We haven't got any money for that.
None at all.
We don't have a maintenance.
It was a very
budget.
small, very, what does it come under? I thought I highlighted it. Cemetery.
So those are saying,
Churchyard repairs and maintenance.
although he's saying that it was it, he classed it as safe?
No one's gonna.
£500 budget.
Oh.
Oh. We haven't got any
We didn't
money,
even pay for the
so
survey.
looking at it, we haven't got any money to do any of this.
Given,
Can we prioritise them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
I think we probably should
and then we need to be asking council to.
approve.
I'm sure we put money in.
We've got money,
Next year.
yeah, we've got money in next year. I was just wondering if, given the fact that we're probably going to underspend in a few areas this year,
Which are-
and lime likes being worked spring and autumn, not height of the summer, cold winter, is there any merit in seeing next full council meeting if we can recommend we give the go-ahead for one of these as soon as possible? Because they might come back and say we can do it in 3 years' time.
Yeah.
Do it in 3 years' time. But if we could find that we've
But for a
underspent.
quote of, I mean, I don't think we can accept a quote of this magnitude on one quote.
No,
No, we
no.
need to
So-
have a quote.
We
So
can't-
if I try and get Weldon Stone,
Yeah, please.
and then another one,
And Churchfield, so that's.
Churchfield, yeah, there's somebody else suggested another one the other day, I can't
But
remember.
if we're looking in February to see if we can get
Something
something
for
away by
spring.
March, April,
So we need 3 quotes, don't we, really, for the
Yeah.
same works?
and then March, April, May, that's a good time to appoint.
A good thing when you've got one quote is you can copy and paste all the detail without the price to send it to someone. The
Yeah.
initial one's always the difficult
Well,
one to get.
Okay, so seek 2 further quotes and then we'll have a look at it with a view of
To recommend,
prioritising what we
yeah.
need to.
I mean, it didn't go over 50,000, which is what it is.
Yeah.
So
It's like you said though, Liz, based on how much it costs to do that small section of wall that was knocked down, that Emma and I both had this kind of figure in mind. So like you said, it wasn't a massive shock, but
The good news is now we've got a number in the budget this
Yeah,
year,
exactly.
we'll have a number next year,
Yeah.
and effectively in 5 years' time, we can probably have done
all
this.
of it, yeah.
And it should last for another 100 years, so
Yeah.
that's money well spent.
Yep. Okie doke.
And then we've got. Amber Cemetery. Arthur Page wrote in his note discussing steps EO trying to trace the potential relatives unfound.
Yeah, it's too old. But I tried to contact the War Graves Commission, couldn't get through on the phone, so I'm just going to send them an email, send them a picture,
Yeah.
which I've already got, and just say, is there anything they can do? Because when I spoke to Emma about it, we can't set the precedent of us starting to repair graves because
No.
everybody will want us to do it.
Yeah.
So I think I'm pretty sure the War Graves Commission will do something about it because they do look after the graves and whatnot. So
Okay.
I'll try and do that again tomorrow.
Just on the cemetery side,
So,
we've got some money to improve or work on the cemeteries next year, with the cemetery walls or something. I know he's going to talk to somebody who's nearby.
Mm.
But is that something we as a group need to start thinking about in the next couple of months? What do we need somebody to do there? Because there was talk of getting a rugby club or someone to mow
yeah,
the rag,
Yeah.
giving our guys more time to work in the cemetery. But then there's that just being around there every day and looking appointing.
Making sure. And
Yeah, and being aware of stuff. Do we need to come up with a job description? Do we need to?
I think Emma's already said she doesn't think swapping the time of our chaps over to the cemetery is going to work. But I think didn't you have an idea as well of asking for
Another
volunteers?
person,
Yeah. I mean, like
We've got
like the
like
Snipe
a
Meadow
day.
Wardens, and
Yeah.
it's the gentleman that owns the chapel that had said he would be quite happy to do some work.
Do you know
in
if she's spoken?
there. I don't think so, but I will ask her.
Why would she think that swapping their time isn't a suitable, unsuitable, or I don't know, whatever the reason is?
There's no way that we can get rid of the contractors because there is too much work in there for the boys to do. There's just too
you mean
much
the
to
contractors
do.
that cut the cemetery
Yeah.
now?
I
So
don't think there was any suggestion to get rid of it as such.
so just Nobby and Tony doing extra bits like
Just keeping on top of the stripping around.
Yeah, because the conversation was it was just a bit untidy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When we first we did the visit.
And
After
the
that.
view was the contractors, they do what they do, it's
Mm.
fine, but
They're not there to care.
yeah,
Yeah.
they just go through and, take an area
Blitz it,
around,
yeah.
blitz it, and then let it get too long, and it's on their timescale. So the conversation I had with that resident first of all was that, the area, which I didn't even know existed, where the ashes are,
Yeah.
the grass gets done, we didn't even see they're there.
Mhm.
And to all those people who are, still regularly being used. Just keeping an eye that that's on top of. And so the idea was if we could help your track to get a bit more use, and cut a big area of grass, that would free us up a bit more time, and that time could be used there. And then a bit more time with someone being a bit more TLC around the edges. And
It still seems to me a good plan. I'm, disappointed really that it hasn't progressed a bit further.
okay.
do we need to check the roughly covered lights?
Or cut the rack with the tractor.
Yeah, we'll pay, I suppose, in some way, shape
Yeah.
or form.
Yeah.
So it's not just a please reach it, it's
No.
an agreement,
Okay.
because you've got the big machine, which will do the job.
So that release. So who cuts the rack now then? Is it?
Either Nobby or Tony.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a bit of stream there as well.
Right.
So it's not taking all of it, but you can
Yeah.
take the big football pitch out,
Mm.
that's in free up through.
Yeah, I have no idea how often in summer they have to cut it, but it's obviously fairly regular. I should imagine it's at least once a week during.
It's a
Growth.
small amount of time, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I mean, it just varies on the weather, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Oh, well, Derek, see what he says.
Okay.
When
So are you-
When
so-
John did it, he liked it pretty short, actually. Didn't need to be that short. all the
No.
time.
Yeah. Okay. So are you going to contact?
I'll speak to
Rugby
Derek.
then, yeah.
Club, yeah.
Okay.
so we can sort of start getting that in action
Yeah.
Yeah.
before the summer comes.
Give it a go.
We can ask
Yeah.
a question. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Give it a go.
So, Jones Strong Centre, asbestos report survey approved for full council in January, contractor instructed. And councillor Clark, some further thoughts, that's on the agenda.
That was your email.
Yeah,
It all came around the scouts like the building.
Yeah.
It works for them really well. They give the town a huge service in terms of numbers. I have no idea if that's popular. They use a lot of car park parenting, which is an exciting thing. And actually the storage space they have is brilliant, etc., etc. But clearly, from our point of view, the concerns about the new EPC regulations, the MES, whatever they're called things. So I started looking into it and the joys of the internet, typing, etc. And clearly, we looked at we're within the scope of the regulations, because effectively we're in some way, shape or form a commercial land, etc. But the regulations, to my eyes, in the briefing document that said you there seem really strong, that there are options we could use. One option might involve us gifting the building to the scouts, so they don't have to worry about rent, that's a big decision. If we renew the 99-year lease before the new regulations come fully into force in 2023, doesn't escape it.
Oh, I read that, my reading was that it didn't. I thought we'd already missed the
I
window of
I think we missed
opportunity.
that,
Yeah, I think so. That's how I read it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we asked the question, and also they might say, well, you've just done that to avoid it.
Yeah, exactly.
The one that was most interesting was this third-party consent exemption. Whereas we can say, we want to do this, and the scouts can say, we don't want you to. Because the way we use the building is this, and we don't like this, and we don't want that, and therefore please don't. And I think if we spoke to the scouts and said, we need to spend lots of money on this building these ways, they might say we'd rather you spend that money in much more beneficial ways for them and for us that don't necessarily mean all the stuff that we've been recommended in the report. And that third party consent exemption would, if that document is correct, and I don't see why it wouldn't be, we would then be meeting the scope of the regulations by saying we've considered this and we've done it, only for 5 years, by which time we can have things in hand, but it gives us a bit more time. So I thought it was something worth considering.
Isn't it from 20, oh yes, no, I guess,
2023.
yeah. You can, that's when you can go for that third party consent exception. Exemption, sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's the obvious thing that jumps out of there, but it just feels a little bit of an avoidance tactic.
When I sat down there, they started one of their games of football, and the football was bouncing off the walls left, right, and centre. And the heating system up there was safe, and a heating system on the floor would have been broken. And they were very keen on the fact that they like that heating system, and they've got the infrared heating system that it was on when it was warm, but it's the one that it only heats your skin rather than the air around it. And they were quite happy with what they got. And I totally appreciate and accept the scope of the regulations. And for a building like this, it makes complete sense. But for a building that's only used in the evening by young children running around generating lots of heat, a lot of it isn't necessarily correct or necessary.
I'm sorry for my ignorance. So the scouts are the tenant of Jones Strong Centre?
Yes,
So what about the other things that happen in there and it has a hireable space?
they control renting it out.
Who do? The scouts?
The scouts and scouts, they have the tenancy and they deal with all of it. So if you want it for a party, you contact the Jones.
Which I tried to book it for a party.
Yeah, and was it?
And I got an answer machine 3 times and they don't call back.
Yeah, they're hard to get contact.
Yeah.
But they
You know when they're there?
But I
Pop down there.
Yeah.
But I then was there on a mum's group, so other people are using the facility.
But they go
Not-
through renting
to
it,
us.
they go renting
No,
it through.
I agree,
Yeah.
and therefore does it not become quite similar in terms of the conversations that we're having with Craig's Vandal and the Victoria Hall? That where does that responsibility lie? Because when I was in there as a mum, I didn't know that it was the scouts in effect own it. And when we were in there, it was bloody freezing and the heating was really irritating because we were sat on the floor playing with 3-month-old children.
Bring the group up,
Yeah, it's cool.
But all I'm saying is in terms of representation, I was not aware of that as a member of,
Well, who
town.
organised the group?
that was an outside person, so it was Tiny Talk.
And she probably hired
And
it.
she probably hired it
Yeah.
through there.
So that's the thing is they end up effectively hiring it out when it's not being used by them to pay us our rent.
I see.
And that's the way the thing, if you look at the contract, it's actually a bit more complex than that, but that's basically.
I see.
what it is. So we give it to them and they sublet it accordingly. But this specific regulation is about us as landlords to them.
Thank you.
So we're talking about 2 separate issues, aren't we? One is how we maintain it for the regulations and how's it rented out. The other 2 issues we're talking about. And we had a contact briefing, which must be 2 meetings or 3 meetings ago, where we talked about actually where we're going to consider, is that something we do in terms of the estates, think about in the future, getting rid of, in terms of the council assets. So that's another conversation we've got to probably continue to have. And would
There was no enthusiasm for it.
But it's certainly, it would be nice to sit down with the scouts and start
Accept
talking
them, yes.
openly about
And talk about these
how we
sorts
use
of things,
the building, because it's our building, it's their building, it's other people's building.
So they may like those sorts of heaters, but as you've just said, we've got some other groups in there, it's cold, so, but if it's okay in the evening,
Like the changing facilities are
freezing cold,
horrific,
But if that's going to cost us £30,000,
quite.
that's it.
we
Quite.
can
And again, you're talking about priority.
And one of the interesting ways is they have ideas that we could spend £30,000 on making the changing facilities significantly better, which would potentially double the number of groups they could have down there. Which certainly means lots more residents have got lots more constructive activities for their children. Because they've got lots of weird spaces. Because it used to be an old road garage, isn't it?
Did it?
It looks like it.
Yeah.
The main way in was
Yeah.
where whatever East Northampton was, used to park all their road clearing things. So a lot of the spaces are made for barrels. It's a garage basically.
Because I think Val at the previous meeting had said they were moved from where the big
But
sinkhole, where the sinkhole appeared, they
Yeah,
were
that was the
there,
scouts, hut, yeah.
and then they were moved to where they are now by the council, wasn't it? So
yeah, so and it was adapted and worked, and it works.
it makes it work for them. Yeah.
And it's a nice frame of the space, it is, it's just there's a few things that, and block graffiti on the outside.
So for us, we've got Cubs and Scouts still using it, and Beavers. So Beavers, Cubs and Scouts still using it. Do we still think that that's how we wish for it to continue for the foreseeable future, or are we going to have a bigger debate? That's the conversation we previously had. And then we've got the issue of doing the EPC with regard to the regulations. So do we need to look at those a bit more?
However, we wouldn't even be probably considering offloading the building if we weren't faced with the EPC decision.
Yeah.
So in some ways they're linked.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have come on the agenda, and I wouldn't have said, why don't we just get rid of it? If someone hadn't told me it's going to cost tens of thousands of pounds to write a building that we charge 1,500, is it, a year? Is it even that much? Yeah.
But
We need to be compliant, don't we?
Yeah.
we need to be
Eventually.
We need to be compliant
Eventually.
eventually, and we've got between now and
We may-
2023.
Well, no, we may be able to get this 5-year
Yeah.
exemption with their
Consent, with their consent, third-party consent exemption. May let it, so we're sublet it as may let a substandard property where it can demonstrate it's been enabled to improve the energy efficiency.
And are there any grants available for that kind of work?
Well, certainly not for a council like us,
Right.
but if we gave them a 99-year lease, of course they're a charity,
Yeah.
so they would be able to get them. But we
Interesting.
can't give
Give
them
them a
a
lease.
year.
That'd be improvement.
Catch 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, because that was my very first thought, but
Yeah.
no, I don't know how I can get around that.
Yeah.
So do you want to arrange a meeting with the Jones Strong people about potentially doing this?
that would seem
That would seem
the most
sensible,
sensible, because at least then we've got a year or two to
Yeah.
talk to them. Because at the moment, I don't think we have a particularly open dialogue with them as tenants and landlords, etc. And we probably should.
Well, I think that just stems from the fact they've never complained about anything. All
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
came about just because of
Yeah.
having to get the lease sorted out and to give a long lease.
Yeah,
they need this
absolutely.
EPC report.
Yeah,
They've
absolutely.
never complained. I mean, even
No,
with the kitchen.
they're very happy. Then. It's
Yeah,
great.
even with the problems they had with all the water issues and the damp with the kitchen, they didn't really complain. And they were happy to fix the kitchen and pay for everything themselves. They never asked for anything as regards that. So, yeah.
I'd like to make now, that having read this, so I didn't realise it was you who provided it, because I'm thanked Lisa for it.
No, I'm very happy for this to take the credit.
The thing which
It's
now
similar.
comes to me is, should we not make this decision about the EPC certificate, knowing what our situation is with all our buildings?
Probably.
So
Has-
the length of time lease were to go to Creative Outdoor for QBH. But what it says at the very end is basically the countdown's on.
The capital.
It's
Quite
gonna-
hard, isn't it?
It's going to be a requirement, not
Yeah.
just limited to landlords. It will be public buildings most likely.
Yeah.
So
The other side
what's
of
the
the
scale
equation,
of our overall problem?
terrifying. The other side of the coin there is that the Jones Strong Centre is a uniquely weird building in our portfolio.
What's next to it?
And this building, in theory, has got relatively good lighting, heating doesn't work, maybe that's it. But, it's been spec'd up more recently, so it should be okay, because at the moment they're looking at a C standard, aren't they? But judging by the report we had down there, it's like all of the EPCs now, it's, well, this could do it, this could do it, and it ends up being, you come up with a shopping list that might work, but might not, and then a spreadsheet calculates whether you hit it or not. So it doesn't actually
But it
change the
also
performance of
wants-
the building.
Yeah, increasing the minimum requirement from E to C, so
But,
with
we've
this
got
bill, given
double
the-
glazing,
given the-
Jones Strong Centre doesn't have double glazing.
Right,
Well, it's a workshop, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a single brick, and it
So
needs-
I think it's
Lots of
certainly
insulation.
worth us looking, because we let out bits of every building in effect, don't we?
Yeah.
I imagine the QBH
there's no lease.
at the moment is there no
No,
lease, so.
no, but
that's fine.
potentially, if you are going to recommend
Yeah,
something.
absolutely, but here in the courthouse,
So where do we want to
Definitely
go?
Courthouse, I'm a tenant here with volunteer action, so.
So where do we want to go with
Preschool.
the Jones Strong specifically? We're going to arrange a meeting.
we need to get a
We
meeting
need to get a meeting
and
to
have a nice
discuss.
open dialogue about what we're suggesting, what they want to do.
Yeah.
And see where that gets us.
Mm.
And the sooner the better, I suppose.
Yeah,
And then we've got a wider conversation we've got to have about the regulations and how they affect all of our buildings.
The interesting thing about
Care and control.
conversations like that is that we can sit here and we'll talk to full council, and probably none of us really know. So do we need to look for outside expertise? Do we need to go to someone like these people and say, what do you think? They're going to say, we'll tell you for a fee.
no, I would recommend that all the council's buildings have the same, whatever that report was that we had from James Strong.
Yeah,
If you remember
EPC
how much that
report.
cost.
Or for EPC.
They're not,
Yeah,
they're
we
not
have an EPC.
expensive.
No, we have an EPC report on all that.
All the
Yeah.
buildings. So
Because
just-
That's
just-
a minimum, and then we know where we stand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then that gives us an overview, and then we decide, and then we decide whether we then put that out to a company to actually deal with what the issues are in each
Because it might be
particular building.
they're all C. Happy day.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Just, are we landlords anywhere?
Uh,
The workshop?
Um,
Should they be making that?
no, we don't own the workshop, do we? We rent it off.
Yeah,
Gold
so-
Street.
Courthouse.
Yeah.
We have
Courthouse.
the landlords at the
Oh,
courthouse.
you mean, are we
Courthouse.
tenants?
Oh,
Yeah,
tenants, yeah, we're tenants at the workshop, that's
Sorry.
all.
Courthouse.
Yeah.
Well, that's all right.
Courthouse, museum,
Legal context.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
barbers, and the.
Sorry,
It's, yeah, it's full. It's
Oh,
full,
it's tenants,
so-
oh, sorry,
Wrong
you said
word, wrong
landlord,
word,
sorry.
I know, wrong word. Small.
I don't think tenants.
Most of it.
Tenants, workshop. that's
It's the
workshop.
workshop, yeah.
So then does this apply to the workshop? Do they have to make the workshop see? Because that's going to be scary. That'll be another change.
Well,
But
that-
that'll be
you
up
have
for
that
him,
first.
that'll be up for
Yeah.
the landlord to do that.
It's just, it's interesting whether, because we can keep an eye on that as well and see if that starts
But
changing.
surely there are going to be thousands of buildings going through exactly the same.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands.
So surely there needs to be information put out there for landlords and for tenants in terms
Be
of
on
what
the
their rights.
website.
It's on the
Yeah.
It's on the website, you just
Deep
got
down
to go and find
somewhere.
it, it says. And the official guidance, including tables illustrating the compliance decision process, can be read on gov.uk website.
Look forward to it.
So,
Little bedtime
so
reading.
there. So
Lovely.
as far as we're concerned at the moment, we're going to do EPC for our
Yeah.
buildings.
Okay, and arrange a meeting with
And
Jones
arrange
Strong.
meeting with
What's
Jones
the school going to do about
They're not tenants. They're not.
They own the
it? I
buildings, don't
suppose,
they?
yeah, but I suppose nobody rents it, yeah, okay.
And the idea is to stop, weird offices, and weird factories, whatever, but
Yeah.
it's like all these things that will inadvertently pull lots of things in, but hey,
So anything else on with that? That was covered under the Jones
No,
law
thank you.
and covered the EPC. So markets, nothing to report.
No, everything seems to
Then we've got town events to discuss the bunting.
Oh, register an interest. I hate it.
be. Well, we like
You know,
it.
for everything.
Oh,
Involves
But
event,
yes,
enjoy yourself, not just what we Christmas.
My wife likes bunting. I hate
So bunting, where has it gone? Here it is. There we go.
bunting. No bunting.
Supply PVC bunting.
Yeah, so it's 422.10
Plus VAT.
plus VAT for the bunting.
And then it says to install the above, including secondary wire, would be so.
So this is his price. Our usual chap charges us 500 for install and 500 for removal.
Right.
So it's I am waiting for another quote for the bunting, which again
Okay.
still hasn't come in. So it's just, I think we just need to approve that we're happy with the bunting cost, and then how we want
Whoever it
to
is.
go about installing it really.
So quick question, the quote we've got here for supply and install and dismantle.
Yeah.
Can our usual contractor supply?
No,
No, and so
just
we
a
could
fitting.
buy from.
buy from them and
And
then,
then he will
He
install.
could install it.
Yeah.
Right, okay, that's-
Okay. We're going to read that. I know you don't like it, Councillor Park.
I don't like the PVC part, but
No,
that's me
that's what we
personally.
said, not PVC, but then we can use it again, I suppose, in the next Jubilee.
If part of this dismantle is bringing it down and packing it and reusing it, and it just.
So we're going to
doesn't
buy it
end
for
up with
£422 plus VAT. It's stored at 796 plus VAT, whereas the other guy is £500 to install. So easy like to. We wait for the other quota. Yes. Are we waiting for the other quota?
yeah,
Right.
So can
So,
we,
but we need to purchase it first.
can we approve up to that supply price?
Yeah.
And then up to the lower install and removal price?
yeah,
Yes.
oh, that's what I would
I
do,
think
yeah.
so, yeah.
Can I propose it and then not vote on it? Is that right?
Is there enough of us to vote and agree? Then bear in mind. Okay. Are we going to vote on that?
Go
All
on
those
then.
in-
I'll propose. Book through creativity.
Anybody second it?
I haven't understood.
So we're going to.
We buy it at 422.10 plus VAT. That's
Or
the buy.
Or cheaper if it comes in,
Oh,
go up
right.
to that.
Yeah. And then we have to have it installed. And
Oh, I see,
So
he
this
has quoted.
He's
Oh,
quoted two.
I
Yeah.
thought you meant that's what he's done in previous years.
No, it's a different
No.
company, isn't it?
Ah,
So we bought the bunting new about 3 or 4 years ago, and then had quotes for install, and this was the cheapest person install, and he's done it for the last
I see.
3 years, 4 years, however,
Right.
since we've had the new bunting. But I got a comparative, because every so often you say get a comparable quote. So I said to the chap that was supplying it, do you do install? And if so, can you quote
Mm,
for
And he's come back
all
with like
elements? And that's what he's
796
come back
plus
with,
VAT.
yeah.
yeah, I
And
don't know.
580 plus VAT, whereas the usual one is 500 to install,
Yeah.
500 to remove, no VAT.
Okay.
But he hasn't come back to you yet
Who?
for installing and removal, the previous guy.
No, same price.
Oh,
yeah,
same price, so we
yeah,
buy
it's
it
not
and we
changed.
have him do
Yeah.
500 and
So
500.
it's effectively 18, is it what, 1800?
No, it's 1422 plus VAT.
14.22.
Plus that.
And
That's
just,
£1,600
Plus
altogether.
that on the 14.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
That's £1,600, yeah. We'll go with
At
that.
least it's got better things to do than get additional quotes on this.
Well, no, she said the one's coming, that's what.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just got to chase it again, but
Okay.
One more time.
okay. So Ian proposing, seconder, Liz. Okay.
Joy.
All
Do you
those
want
in
me to
favour?
put that in the minutes in brackets
Yeah,
begrudgingly?
Yeah, no, begrudgingly, but he's really in support of it. All those in
Everybody
favour?
happy with that?
Big smile.
You know.
For the greater good.
We did have cotton bunting before this last lot of bunting, but from what I gather from people, it was very expensive. It did last quite a long time, so that is something we could look at for future. The next time we need to replace our normal bunting as opposed to Union Jack, if we want to look at
Yeah.
an alternative, we can do, but we have to bear in mind it probably will be bigger outlay to start off with.
Yeah, it's just always one of those things that you go, oh, great, we can store it, but then the reality is that it tangles, it's,
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, I've untangled it in this room.
yeah,
It's
painful.
very frustrating, yeah.
You feel like it should be a town project, don't you?
Yeah.
Everybody make
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yarn bombers.
Yarn bombers, yeah. If they could do it so that it didn't stretch, because that's the other thing,
Well,
that
that's-
it
and I
stretches
understand
quite a
The
lot.
practical implications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why isn't the council plant doesn't like
No, there's two reasons.
it. Okay, then we've got, discuss, 21.166, discuss developing a 5 to 7 year rolling maintenance programme for the OTC estate. Councillor Holland.
Well, it's only my suggestion, and in fact, we have already, in a way, started to do this, in that when we made our recommendations to the council about how the budget was going to work, we started building some reserves against not repairs necessarily we know about now, but things which will inevitably come up. So financially, we've already taken a small step towards it, but it would work most efficiently if we were able to give NOMI or whoever it would be at least or if they had developed a list of the things which could be anticipated, or where I mean, I'm sure this won't be true, but let's say after you have the church wall, you spend 50,000 on it. Is the most prudent thing to do is 10 years from now know that we need another report, or at least commission another report? Because this isn't about so much the money, this is about the actions that should be scheduled into those people, the maintenance teams thinking. And Emma often talks about it's been a while since this building was repainted, but no date is actually set that it's a 7-year rolling programme.
Councillor Clark.
On exactly the same note, in council, and it does feel like certainly in the States and probably as a council, we've been a bit too reactive. So we wait for this problem and we go, oh, we've got no choice, we'll do it. And this would stop that in theory. There'll still be problems coming along, but the idea was if we knew that every 5 years we had to have the electrical testing, we'd know that 5 years every.
We don't want a big Gantt chart, don't we? We want a chart with the dates on.
Yes.
Sort of like a project management chart.
Yeah, it's sensible. It's
Is that?
financially sensible.
Yeah.
Yeah, because exactly that happened with the courthouse roof, didn't it? We suddenly found, we thought we'd got minor repairs to do, and then major repairs were found, so it put 2 potential tenants on hold. And I remember then, I don't think it was decided, but it was talked about, a full survey on all our roofs. But again, it was something that never got, actually, it never materialised.
And we actually put in all the budgets a reasonable amount of money for professional fees and stuff like that. So, you know, we could easily afford some of these things. And it would also stop us having to think what we need to do now, because we know that in February 2025, we'll be looking at the roof report.
Well, once, it's the same with these electrical reports that I wasn't aware of that needed doing. Now we know, and that it's a maximum of 5 years that they run for. We'll just automatically diarise the fact that in 4.5 years' time, we've got to start looking at quotes for having them done again. So, but if you don't know, you don't know. If you don't know the details, you don't know, do you? So.
But it feels quite a big project to take it on, to get it up and running the first time. You know, I don't think we should underestimate what would be involved in that, given, no offence, Lisa, you're not an expert.
No, I'm not, absolutely.
You know, and so.
It's almost it is a most, you've got a maintenance programme report, isn't it? There's something like that that sort of sets out.
Just things like fire extinguishers.
Yeah, all of it across the board. So it just sits with, so we can look at it and go, map across, so when are we due? We have a problem come in, and we can go, where have we looked at that then previously? And then going forward, and so well, actually we've mapped that in.
I'm sure you can get software.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. See, with most of the things that we have done, they contact us. So because we didn't have a very good crossover with staff leaving, and not a lot of information was passed on, it's just we've had to learn as we've gone along. But thankfully, a lot of the things that happen, we just get contacted, and the boiler service man says, "You're due for a boiler service," and we're like, "Great, okay, come and do it." But for other things like this electrical 5-year electrical inspection, not knowing anything about it, and then to be told, well, you're just slightly out of date with it, we need to get another one. Thankfully, we found out now so that we can get them all in place again. But like I say, if you don't know the detail, you don't know the detail. We're not experts by any means. So yeah, having a proper.
There is that set of things which may be prudent and almost legal to have, but there is also clearing the gutters, repainting, on a 7-year schedule or whatever. These are things that we can think about, and the other stuff, as you say, is coming to your attention one way or another. Is drawing that all together.
Yeah.
So it's almost like yearly. It's either 6 monthly, yearly, bi-yearly, or whatever.
There's something outside of this building, isn't there?
Facial boards.
Is it?
They're always referred to facial boards. And I keep looking at them going, quite to me. And I don't really know what I'm looking for in a facial board.
They didn't replace. That's the thing I don't understand. Spending so much money on the building and then not replacing I think it's the gutters on the back and none of the fascia boards. So the fascia boards are all wooden. So obviously they're rotting, and there's various. I don't think there's any major problems at the minute, but they will need work. They will need attending to, probably in the next couple of years. So yeah.
So how do we?
How do we go about getting that together?
Software, there's lots of it, and it's very complicated. And having used a new software system at school, which I don't understand, and none of the maintenance guys understand, where it tells them to do things, but it does have jobs and things that are very exciting. It is an easy place to start over the next month or so, creating a sort of shared document. And as we all think of stuff, and you think of stuff, and Nobby thinks of stuff, we just write it on and see where it gets us.
It'd be like a big spidergram, won't it? Big spider,
or a big Excel, or a big Word, or something, or a big OneNote. And we all share it, we can all type on it, and then we get to a point where we've actually got a little bit of structure, and then we say, let's develop this or develop that. Or we can also look back over the minutes the last 12 months and see what's come up, what do we need to factor in for us.
I'm going to ask Roger at school and say, how do you plan when the kids are here when they're not? Roger, the guy that works in Roger,
They do have a rolling maintenance programme, which was
I'd be interested to know how his works.
It was an Excel sheet.
Oh, okay.
Because we used to use it when we were at the theatre. And it was just a big Excel sheet with all of the different buildings, and then literally working through all of the operations and tracking it over.
Is it also a good idea?
Good to have a look at that.
Well, is it something that we should see if we can get Lisa and Roger to have lunch together?
It's a great idea.
Not like in a pub or something. No, Roger eats lunch in the corner.
So we can have soup in the microwave, don't we, Lisa?
Yeah, hot noodle. Still do those. They had packets today, of course, but it wasn't there.
And he'll have a chat about it.
Well, I mean, I did do a document similar to the one that we have every month, the action points, and Nobby and then John had one that was like 10 sheets long, and we just used to knock bits off as they completed them.
But that was was that yearly though? Was that a yearly type of work?
No, it was a rolling one, it just kept moving,
Added to it.
But the thing with that is it was only when things were reported to me that they went on there. So like you say, if it was a shared document, that would be quite handy, because then as people notice things, and because the other thing is as well is I will get a phone call about something, you write it down to put it somewhere, and then another phone call comes in, you forget about it. That's the other thing, which is why I did these action points at the beginning, because it was an aid for me to remember what I needed to do as well. So, I mean, I could restart that again. I think it kind of stopped doing it when we were in lockdown, really, because nothing much was happening, so it didn't get updated.
This would be a test for your online training. If you find the old document and share it to all of us as a live Office
document,
we can all play with it, add to it, and it won't be, it'll still be original. And I'll get you a lunch date with Roger. And we can talk about stuff, and then in a month's time.
Why not? We'll start somewhere.
Exactly, start somewhere.
Because
it might just be a red, amber, green system that we've managed to make out.
That's exactly what we used to do, and then you can at least prioritise different levels.
Like some of us at least. I think some of us should be volunteering.
No, I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to.
Don't think it's
But
that
having
council
said
on.
that, having said that, there are a lot of things in terms of from building management, you know, things like the boiler inspection, the lift inspections and things like that, that I could very quickly jot down. But I don't want anybody to suck eggs, you know, in terms of I don't know what's already there.
Let's get this running and then if you think
Yeah,
something-
yeah, because there's
it can be something that we can add to week on week.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can on a Mac. Can I do that?
Possibly.
Everything comes up on here that I can't edit anything, it's view only, because it's a Mac.
I'm a bit, I can sort of,
Even if you
mine's a
go-
bit like that. Yeah,
Even
it
if you go
depends,
through the web,
depends how Lisa sends it,
Yeah,
the document.
Does it?
A lot of them I can open some things on here.
I bet the ones
Tablet.
have
maybe
on
if
the
I
Mac,
saved it,
sometimes I
I don't know, but if it's a shared.
Try and save it as a PDF.
Yeah, but
sometimes.
then if it's shared, then you wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
edit that, so, yeah.
If you go through the web, you should be able to, so you can go Office 365 through the web.
Office, yeah.
Yeah, but it said, yeah, it says
Then
that
you're
where,
just changing on.
well, let me,
We'll find a solution.
it then says contact your admin about your office plan.
Oh no, well maybe maybe it's because we don't have access to Office through the council.
Both of mine, have you got your council and your school email or your system?
So I have
See,
to
I've
set-
got my Office 365, but I've got my council and my school.
Yeah, no, see, they wouldn't let me do that because I have a Mac.
No, but also.
So I ended up being in the office here, talking to, which is the IT consultant.
Blue Moon.
Yes,
Blue Moon, yeah.
talking on the phone to them for a good 20 minutes, and they've allowed me to kind of use a loophole to get onto the email.
Okay.
But the problem is that you have access to Council 365.
Yeah.
We don't, I think.
And school.
No, as
Oh.
councillors.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and I think that's the
So,
problem.
Right, okay, okay.
But I think
We don't need
after the
to-
training, we did get our knuckles wrapped a little bit from Blue Moon because they were like, "Oh, who did you have the training with?" Because I don't know why we went to someone else because obviously Blue Moon must do the same sort of training. So he asked us not to do anything until they've come to see us and gone through various bits with us. So I think they may well be able to do something so that you can then get the
So at the moment,
access.
you have a license to do things,
Yeah,
and effectively we have a license to do whatever we do. And if they work together, that's great. But your license won't work
Mhm.
if you're not in Office. So we might need to just broaden the license a bit.
Okay.
That's probably simplification now.
I thought that was what the idea was.
It is, but one of the
Yeah.
other meetings, everyone said that because we will add more to our IT budget, well, they keep it makes people's lives easier, it's a small price to pay.
Mm.
Because it will also make it function better.
Yeah.
But without the training, we won't have that. So
No.
now that the
It's
training-
also an oddity of going between Microsoft and Mac.
But it's one to
Okay.
ask Blue Moon about.
So
Use
use
Red as your example of the problem.
yeah, okay.
No, you're not. Okay, so 21167. Thank you, Councillor Alderman. For that last
So we call it the whole.
the Holland plan. Discuss a cold weather protocol. Oh, salt, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh, salt. I said, for
You
what?
can call it cold weather protocol, or you can call it salt.
Well, it's salt. The first one's very exciting. Sounded good.
Salt, and it's all highlighted. What we should or shouldn't do.
Yeah, it came up last year, I think, and it came up again. I think it came
Don't
from someone asking the question, can we clean our pavements outside our house?
You
The
can.
insurance company said, no, don't. And there's this contradictory view of, no, you can't, and yes, you can. But the government says, yes, you can, and everyone else says, no, you can't. My thought on it was going through the St. Peter's Church last Saturday morning. It's the stone ways are icy.
Yeah.
And when it's icy, they're very icy. There's a lot of people going around in the morning, and I know at least 2 people fell over and injured themselves, etc., etc. And the interesting question is, I remember this advice, which you got from insurers, saying, do not clear pavements or roadways that are not your responsibility. But of course, we have a large number of paths and roadways that are our responsibility. And that seems to be something that we're going to do. So the next section down highlights we're responsible for employees and visitors to your premises and public areas for which the town council is responsible.
Okay.
And the church does seem to be one of those areas. So it strikes me that
we've got to solve it,
We've got to do something. Well, no, we've got to do something.
put something with it.
Now, it might be that we say
Be careful.
sometimes we can't salt it and blah, 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 but that's why I said cold with a protocol. Because we've got to at least say what we do and why we do it and why we don't do it.
Reasonably practical.
Yeah, and us saying that we don't have enough staff or salt's too expensive are not reasonably practical reasons.
Not having enough staff, I think, is reasonably practical.
No, I don't think it is.
I think it is.
Because the argument would be then, if someone
Well, I think-
overheard herself, I would just say, why didn't you get somebody in to do it?
Yeah, but also.
As a council, you should find money like a contingency
Well, no, but they'll
plan
also
to
say,
make that happen.
and then what they'll also say
Yeah,
is,
but the law would say,
Oh, well.
don't they?
I think it's challenging. Sorry.
it's fine. What they'll also say quite clearly is if you think there's a risk and you're saying you're not dealing with it because you don't have enough staff, what you need to do is put up a sign or tell
Need to
people
mitigate the
you're
risk.
not
Warn
doing
it,
it
yeah.
because you're not doing it. And at the moment, we don't do that. So that's
Mitigate the risk.
Yeah.
How do we
So
mitigate
if you
the
look
risk?
down the road on there,
For an hour.
I've got some ideas. Last one, easy steps, cold weather policy, which I think could be something as simple as, and this is just a suggestion, OTC will bring its cold weather policy into play when overnight temperatures are forecast to be below 0 degrees. So 1 or 2 is fine. And again, this is not my suggestion, it's just something I wrote down. The afternoon before, we'll add a note to the notice board reminding residents to take care on OTC paths, which is us saying we're doing something. And the same on social media, we will normally start allowing a scatter grid in high foot traffic locations, typically churchyard paths, just the stone ones, and ensure grid bins we provide are responsible for locations and ready supplies. We have a grid bin, someone has a grid bin in the churchyard, but it's right in the middle of the churchyard. So you have to walk all the way to get to the middle of it to get some salt out. And that seems weird.
I was going to say, is it, maybe it's a northern thing. I grew up in the north. We have grip bins everywhere. Is that to avoid this? So that then the council provides the grip,
And you
and
put it on.
people
put it out,
then
yeah.
choose. Is that why? Like,
It's
I
one of
mean,
the
we have
reasons,
grip bins everywhere.
One of the other things that's interesting, and we're looking to arrange a meeting with the school in the next, I think sometime in early March or late February or something. At the moment, I think the school gripped quite a lot of it, because they generate
Yes,
quite a lot of
They do,
traffic.
yeah.
And it might simply be that we in school come up with an agreement that we grit every now and again, and they grit a lot. And that's happy days, and we tell people that's what we're doing, and I think we're then in a better situation than we are now. And I think the last point in there is we need to say what we're doing, don't we?
Yeah, and boringly, I think it's worth asking Alistair Forsyth about their risk assessments for it, because it's quite clear on here that it's the risk assessments that are the important factor of deciding what is reasonably practical.
And all you need to do is do that bit of paper, and then you say you've done it, and you do what it says.
Mm.
And I don't think at the moment we've done that. I don't think we do what it says before at all. So unfortunately, we are probably less well placed.
So who are we going to make responsible for the cold weather policy? Does that fall on Lisa or somebody in the office?
We should probably come up with something. How about starting a document?
I think you'll have to go to full council, do you think, as well?
Well, we probably need to work out what it is.
Mm.
Who does risk assessments at the moment?
John Dawson is our health and safety chap, and I think that's who Emma has spoken to about this, as
Right.
well as the
Yeah, 'cause she wants
insurers.
to sort thing before we.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be the first thing, we need to know what it looks like,
He'll be able to advise us about
and then.
Yeah. doing the risk assessment. Because I mean, it is definitely at the moment. Nobby came in the other day and he said it's all of it had been salted by somebody else. So he assumes it's, and I think you must use your own salt as well,
Probably.
That's cool.
because he said it's a different colour.
I
to
saw
what
like
we
gardeners
use.
wandering around on Monday.
Oh, everybody's at it.
And given that the school has most of the traffic on, say, some Saturday mornings, Monday mornings, etc., that seems.
Especially for the church,
Brandon Blackthorn was treacherous the other day.
So I suppose the question is, particularly with it being cold, I thought it was worth raising.
Mm.
We've raised it. We can make sure we raise it in our meeting with the school in March or February, whenever that happens. And if we've got, just his name was John.
It was on John Dawson.
John Dawson,
We
yeah.
have his view on it between now and then.
Okay.
Is he not contracted to advise us that there's a risk?
Pardon?
Is he not contracted to advise us that there's a risk if he's never brought it up in all the years that you've been paying him?
I'll have to ask Emma.
That just seems extraordinary. It just seems to me a risk that you've suddenly decided that there is, which a professional risk assessment person that we're paying to give us advice has never said is something that we should be addressing. It seems
I get
quite
the
strange.
impression that he's advised us when we've approached him about certain properties in certain areas. As far as I know, we've not brought him in and said to him we want a risk assessment on every single. As far as I know, but I might be wrong.
Okay.
He doesn't have a
It's
proactive
reactive.
role.
Yeah.
It's right, it's reactive.
I think the other thing is if you don't know what it's like around places at certain times, you might not see it. But the other point is a risk assessment doesn't need to be complicated.
No.
I've almost done one there, saying, look, the churchyard's got some stone paths that are slippy, some other ones that are less slippy, so we need to focus basically about 200 metres of stone paths probably. And everywhere else you can probably walk on grass to avoid the path if you wanted to. And whether we just say, this is what we're doing, happy days. I imagine that's enough. So I thought it was worth raising.
Okay.
Okay. Item 21.168, any other business to report only? Anybody?
No, it's-
Everybody?
Lisa's got one.
Lisa's gone.
Okay.
Tennis.
Tennis. Oh yes, yeah.
Andy?
It's because we talked about it earlier, wasn't it? I forgot all about it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so whether it has to go through planning or not, I think they just wanted to run it by estates as to whether we've got any objections to the plans for building this, what would you call it?
Well, we're the landlords,
Well, I
aren't
don't
Yeah.
know what we're talking about.
I sent
So
it out
this-
earlier,
so
so they
they
want
want
to
to-
take the stone, they want to take the steps down that are existing and build kind of like a veranda type thing round the porter cabin. And Paul was saying about whether it's a planning issue, they might have to apply for planning, but I think it was a very quick meeting with Emma and somebody from the tennis association yesterday. And he just wanted to
they? I think they
see
need
whether
to
we have
ask-
any.
I think they need to ask whether they can construct the balcony under permitted development through, they need to ask Northlands Council. And then they come to us with whatever they have
Been
from
told they're
them.
allowed to do, yeah.
And then we will or won't agree to it being constructed and whether it has to go through planning, through the planning committee. That's how I would deal with that. Because it's another structure being put on the front of their building.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far their curtilage is allowed at the front there.
Is it worth us digging out our contract?
Well, it depends what's shown on, it depends what's shown on there. Have they ever asked for planning? There must be a planning application when that building was first put there.
I would
What
imagine
did it
so,
allow?
yeah.
What did it allow them to put there? It may well be, it was just to the footpath and that was it. And now they're asking for something else. That was then going to be a permanent fixture, which, if it's allowed in the permitted development, they can do it, just like they can with some other things with your houses. Whereas other things, they might have to ask for planning permission, which we almost certainly won't, we may well oppose, because it's enhancing the building,
But it's not our decision.
but it won't be, it will be, the planning authority.
Okay, so check in the lease, what, if there's anything, any restrictions in the
Because
lease,
it's
and
been
also
built on
check.
their curtilage of their
Yeah,
site.
okay,
And checking, getting them to check with normal things.
It's no different than the rugby club asking for the
Yeah.
containers.
Yeah.
They came to us and then said, can we have these containers? And we said, well, actually, these get planning. They went off to get planning and they came back and said, it's been agreed, can you agree to it? And we said, yes, we agree to it. So that'd be our safest option.
okay,
Agreed.
perfect.
So that's, anything else to note? No, and then I note the next meeting, I may, is down for the 17th of February.
No,
12th.
22nd of February,
Oh.
your request for agenda items,
Oh, it's
deadline
17th.
is the 17th,
Right.
yeah.
Okey-dokey. So, next meeting, 22nd February. On that note, meeting is closed.
Thank you.
very much.